Welcome. I'm your instructor, John Pomeroy, and this lesson is all about how to draw cartoon hands. Coming off the last lesson where we did realistic hands, I think that's going to inform us in how to get really effective and fun poses for cartoon hands. Pointing poses, happy poses, extreme poses, and not just cartoon human hands. We're going to do all kinds of different animal-like hands. We will do monster hands. We will do a whole variety of different types of hands in different poses. We want to give you as much variety as possible so that you can be prepared for any kind of character that you may want to design with fun cartoon hands. So let's get started. So we'll start out with a basic hand, a cartoon hand shape. Kind of like a soft leaf pattern. I'm going to do a step-by-step construction to show you how a cartoon hand can be created. So this represents step 1, step 2, and step 3. And then we'll do, likewise, palm down. So this would be palm up, and then this would be palm down. So there would be the arm, wrist, and this is our basic construction of a cartoon hand for a human cartoon character. So we started out with this shape here, a soft leaf shape. That would be the palm right there. Arm would come up. And then we have the wrist once again on step 2. We have the palm. We have this basic shape now. What we want to do is now we create a thumb. So coming off the wrist, you build up the mound and then arch in a curve this way away from the palm, and then circle back around, and you have the thumb. So we have the wrist, palm, and thumb. Now, step number 3, we have wrist, palm, thumb, and then create kind of like a slight drawn arch right here. And that's going to be kind of where you're going to place each of your digits. Each of your fingers are going to be radiating from that point. If I was to flex my fingers like that, you could see where the placement would be. So there's a middle finger, space, ring finger, space, middle finger, and index finger. And if you were to flip the side, the palm down, here's your wrist and your basic kind of leaf shape. There's the palm and the leaf shape, and there you would start your thumb off the wrist, curve this way, and then return to the palm. And then the final, we got the wrist, we've got your hand shape, your soft leaf shape, we've got the thumb, and then the knuckles across the top. We don't show the knuckles too much on these types of hands, these soft hands, but we radiate the fingers the same way as a realistic hand. So once again, if you look at these hands right here, the middle finger is the longest, the index finger and ring finger are about the same length, and then the small finger, pinky finger, is the smallest. So I'm doing a little bit of a knuckle, and there's our hand. If I were to clench that hand into a fist, let's try that out. Let's take the let's take that middle hand that's opened up and create a fist. So we'd have a kind of a block. We'd go from a hand that's opened up in that kind of a shape. There's the palm, there's the fingers. There's each of the individual fingers. We have the index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and the small finger. And then the thumb. Thumb would press across the palm against each of the fingers. And putting together a fist, imagine I'll just shade in that block. I'm not going to add fingernails. I'll just keep it real simple. But there is a way you can take that and make that into a cartoon fist. There's the other palm. Some of the information that we learned when we were doing realistic hands comes in real handy here, because you'll know where to place wrinkles where you need them to show the compression of fleshy parts coming together, pressing together, and it gives the drawing power and vitality to show that. Maybe even a knuckle line here and there, just to give it tension. Take that same hand, and if we wanted to do like a peace sign, there's the hand block, there's the two fingers held up, the thumb is brought inside, compressed against the palm, there's the wrist, outside of the wrist, and then you would get the fingers that were flexed inward. And you try to bring them in. Fingers are really nice when you can bring them in at angles to each other as opposed to straight up and down. Avoid parallel lines if you can. It gets very mechanical and uninteresting. You want to have the hands or the fingers at slight angles to them, to each other, in a diagonal form. That makes for the best design. So here are the two fingers extended. Get some stretch lines there. Another wrinkle right there, because that's where that structure comes in. You want to make it believable. It's an animated character, but you're creating an animated character's own world. And you want to make it believable. Maybe even a tendon showing right there. So next, let's do a female hand. Now, if we were to take a more slender block, like a rectangle, and attach a tapering tube to it. It's a tapering tube for the arm and the wrist. And then create a thumb right there, a tapering tube thumb shape. I would kind of create like almost like a mitten or a glove shape for the whole, for all 4 fingers. There's the palm. And with female forms, the less angular, the better for a cartoon character. Softness is a very feminine characteristic for cartoon characters, for female cartoon characters. And then the fingers would kind of radiate towards a single point out here. And then you have the fingers that gracefully extend to that point. And you have a female hand. And you can take that information, you can take that design, and you can spread the fingers. Let's see what it likes. Spread. Radiating outward in a fan pattern. There's the thumb. And each of the fingers. Now, I like to just indicate very softly a joint, at least one joint, to give the feminine hand some structure. And I usually just run that across one side of the finger, not both. So I'll have, if I have the finger shape, I'll have long line at the bottom, and then the knuckle, and then a soft indentation suggesting a knuckle. Just to keep it simple, but to maintain some structure. There's the pinky finger or small finger. So the hand is opened here, female hand. Let's do the palm side down. Have the tapering tube shape right there. We have the square shape right there. Radiating pattern for the fingers. There's the thumb. Small finger, space, knuckle, ring finger, middle finger, and index finger. There's the outside of the palm. And a nice taper on these fingers. Let's try a couple of different poses. using the female hand. There's a tubular shape for the arm. There is a block shape for the palm. And then a tapering tube shape for the fingers. Tapering tube shape for the thumb. There's the top of the palm, attaching to the wrist. There's the wrist coming into the palm. Ever so slight indication of knuckles. Keeping it soft. There's a knuckle right there. There is the index finger. Here is the middle finger. Tapering. There's a slight indication of a knuckle. Ring finger. And then small finger. I'll just shade it in to give it a little depth. I'm going to taper that, make that just a little thinner. There's a female cartoon arm. We can try a clenched fist using the female hand. There is a tapering shape for the arm. There is the fist. And then create a shape for all the fingers that they would fit into. And then do a nice little pattern that they would radiate from. That kind of unifies the design a little bit. You'd see maybe part of the thumb right there. So there's a clenched female fist. Let's get into some more cartoon-like hands. The old style ball and hose, that was always an option. Years ago, we'd have the ball and hose arms. And they were usually formed kind of out of, they would have a hand that would be a glove. So we use a glove shape. Thumb radiating from the glove. It's funny, in the older days of animation, they would only have, most of the characters had 3 fingers, 3 digits. And I guess it was for economy's sake, because 3 fingers were easier to draw than 4 fingers. And they would have these little seams, 3 little seams on the top side of the glove. And then you would have the palm up. You'd have the fingers attached in a arc form next to the palm. Be the thumb, or be the rolled edge of the glove, and that would be your palm up. So that's the old style ball and hose cartoon hand that you would draw. We can try, I'd like to try and do some other forms of hands just to, inspire you to to reach out and try different types of combination of forms. Let's take the block, the basic hand for shape of a block with a tubular shape, tapering tubular shape. And let's turn that into some sort of creature. So we'd have that going into this shape. Now, once you start using these building block shapes, there's no limit to what you can create. You can just start going on and on and on. So you've got the tapering tube shape, you've got the block shape here. Let's create an idea for a thumb. We're going to rough out a shape there. We're going to rough out a shape for a finger, a digit, and then 3 other digits. This is going to be a 3-digit hand with a thumb. We're going to give it a real pronounced knuckle. And we're going to create hair coming off of the arm. And there's a thumb, a very pronounced and angular thumb, wrinkled at the knuckle, and we're going to give it a claw. So this is a hand of some sort of creature. We can use tendons. Tendons are good if you're trying to create the illusion of strength. This is a good way to do it. So you have very pronounced knuckles and tendons on this creature, space between each one of the fingers, and then a very pronounced knuckle with wrinkles and a claw. So you're taking a lot of the information that you've already learned from the How to Draw a Realistic Hand, and you're applying it to some really fun, interesting designs. And you can be as angular as you want with this creature. I mean, the knuckles can be twice as angular as what I'm drawing. There's no limit. There's the outside claw. So if you guys are into science fiction or horror stories, this would be the hand for you. Next, I'm going to do another type of hand real quickly. This would be a really abbreviated design for a hand, but I just want to mention it before we close our lesson. Take the block and attach it to a tube and create a hand that's very stubby in fingers. Almost like little conical digits attached. Now this is the palms up. This is palms up. That's a different type of hand. But I just wanted to mention that, you can try all different shapes, all different sizes, any combination. If that were palm down, you would probably see something. We radiate the fingers in an arc, once again. So this is looking down. You may see a knuckle here. No fingernails, just fat little triangular digits. And another one might be a long, lanky hand. Almost like a zombie hand, with some bone showing. We have tendons. We have the knuckles. And long, bony digits. There's the underside of the palm. You can show knuckles. Knuckles would be fun for this particular type of character. We're almost getting into game design type of characters with these hands. Long digits. skeletal-like digits. Pronounced knuckles. That would be the index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and of course a thumb, a very bony thumb that sticks out. So that gives you quite an array of different types of hand postures, gestures, designs. Sky's the limit. So take this information and use it for your own cartoon hand designs. Well, that was a fun class. So I gave you a lot of different variations of fun poses that you can do with cartoon hands. Gesturing poses, attitude poses, poses of happiness, poses of clenched fists, all sorts of different combinations. So what I'd like you to do is take this information and go and create some really fun hands. Gesturing, all different types of shapes and sizes and designs. It could be pointed hands. It can be conical hands. It could be hands with long fingers or hands with stubby little digits. All different types of combinations. And challenge yourself to do difficult positions of hands also. Trying to master foreshortening and perspective is a very important part of drawing and artistry. And the more effective you can be at doing that with hands, the better artist you will be. So that is your assignment. I look forward to seeing you again. So bye-bye from now.